A couple of transfers, 3 actually, yesterday for the Vols, and you start with Miami transfer offensive lineman John Campbell. Tennessee is trying to replace Darnell Wright. It's not going to be easy to replace him. In case you don't know, when you consider size speed ratio and all of that, he was one of the absolute best athletes on the team. You're talking about a guy who could do backflips, who's just an absolutely phenomenal athlete. So Darnell Wright's not going to be replaced by anybody coming from the transfer portal in full. But John Campbell is one of those guys that Tennessee is going to look to step into that right tackle spot. So what were your thoughts on Tennessee? Let's start with John Campbell, and then we'll get to Norman-Lott, and we'll get to a wide receiver that, indeed, as your headline said, could make Tennessee very scary. But let's start with John Campbell. How big of a pickup was this for the Vols in terms of roster need?
It was pretty big in this way. I think Tennessee had found the starters they need at both tackle spots because Gerald Mincey's locked in at left tackle, and Texas transfer Andre Carrick was going to come in and replace Darnell Wright at right tackle. Like you said, not really replace, but at least fill that void. I think the goal with tackle, when you never have enough depth on your offensive line, but you always want to be able to run 3 guys, at tackle overall. And I think with John Campbell, you get that. So you have some options now, and I think he's going to end up being the starter over Carrick now, which makes it an even bigger deal. I think the real story with John Campbell is this was why I brought up the Billy Napier point last segment. Billy Napier was the CEO, all about details and process. It wasn't about game planning. It was about building a program, and losing out on a guy like on a transfer like John Campbell is a big deal for somebody like him. Tennessee should not have been able to lure him out of Florida and away from the Gators. And if they're doing that, what's your selling point for Billy Napier over Josh Heupel at that point? Because he's not going to out-scheme Josh Heupel in a game. And now it's looking like he's not going to out-recruit Josh Heupel either. And so there are some real consequences to this one random pickup that I did not think Tennessee was going to get.
No, I didn't either. I thought that was a pleasant surprise for Tennessee. Okay, so before we get to the receiver that I know everybody wants to talk about because that's exciting, defensive lineman Omarr Norman-Lott. Here is a guy who leaves the Arizona State Sun Devils and makes the transfer. And this is after the Dont'e Thornton pickup, which we're going to get to. But here's one where Rodney Garner pulls a guy in, and talk about teaching an old dog new tricks. Rodney Garner is one of the best high school recruiters of all time, but he's proving to be a great recruiter in the transfer portal as well. He officially entered the transfer portal in December, did Norman-Lott, and Tennessee was the first school to extend Norman-Lott a scholarship. And he was very impressed by East Tennessee. He transfers from Arizona State. He is a guy who has 6'3", 290 pounds. So he's going to be a pure defensive tackle. There's no question about that. And again, credit Tennessee, because as much as they want to compete with the Alabamas and Georgias, and I think they're about this close. If you're watching on video, I'm holding my fingers very close together. If you're listening on our audio platforms, then I'm holding my fingers pretty close together. But here's a guy that Tennessee didn't wait for more people to come and reach out to, and they extended the first scholarship offer and secured him. Tennessee may well recruit with Georgia and Alabama one day where they go toe-to-toe. Joe says he's very excited about Norman-Lott for some reason. They may go toe-to-toe with Georgia or Alabama, but it's not quite there yet. They're not able to go toe-to-toe with 10 guys that Georgia or Alabama really, really want and win 5 of those battles. They may get there. That may happen by next year, but it's not happening yet. So you have to extend scholarship offers earlier than maybe you're even a little bit comfortable with. And I think Norman-Lott is a great example of that.
Yeah, and with Latrell Bumpus and Byron Young gone, Norman-Lott is somebody they really needed. I think we said yesterday, I think all 3 of us had Norman-Lott at the top of our list of the players Tennessee wanted to get the most. because he filled a direct need, has Power 5 experience. This is the equivalent of just a regular free agent signing in the NFL to offset a player you lost. And so I think this is a big pickup. I think he could start, but if not, he'll be a rotational guy at the very least. And you're right. It's the big thing for Heupel, and what we're seeing with Heupel in the transfer portal right now. You and I have been talking nonstop about 2023 being more of a rebuilding year. Tennessee takes a step back with Hooker gone. I think Heupel's doing everything within his power to make sure that doesn't happen. And he wants to kind of stay above water until he can start really recruiting with the Alabamas and Georgias. And you're right, that's a good way to focus on it. I think that in college football, college football is you can fall behind really fast. It takes one bad season for every recruit to look at you and say, I might want to stay away from that right now.
It's very
And yeah. And so I think because of that, I think that Josh Heupel knows he really can't afford to fall back after one big year. We saw what happened with Kevin Sumlin right after Johnny Manziel left, had an 8-5 year, and then all these people started raising questions: can he coach without Manziel? And slowly but surely, Texas A&M lost a wave of transfers, wasn't recruiting the same, and then he was fired by 2017. And we know Josh Heupel wants to avoid that.
right. And the other one you had recently at Tennessee was, I was told that, well, I mean, I don't have to be told by anybody off the record or behind closed doors. Eli Drinkwitz just pointed out that Tennessee had NCAA issues. So those have since been or are close to being resolved. So I guarantee you in recruiting that was brought up several different times. Yeah, you can go play for Tennessee, but man, I hope they don't have that postseason ban. And
Yep.
I know that you and I both know that's absurd. I mean, they're not going to postseason ban anybody of Tennessee's ilk. Anybody that's in the top 40 of college football. Nobody is going to get a postseason ban unless they just practically shoot somebody randomly on the street. So that is absurd to say, but that stuff happens all the time in recruiting. The other thing that happens all the time is, I don't know, that guy may be, cheating, a little bit. But nowadays, that's all wiped off the table because you can promise NIL money. So the last to pick up, and if you're a fan of this guy already, hit that thumbs up button as we break down the young man Dont'e Thornton. Again, the thumbs up button, the like button helps us reach more people at a new time, 10 o'clock each and every weekday. Tennessee adds Oregon wide receiver Dont'e Thornton, making the Vols offense extremely scary. How scary, Caleb Calhoun?
This is, like I said, Kevin Durant joining Golden State. That's what this is. You have the best offense in NBA history adding the best offensive player in NBA history. Okay, it's not the best offense adding the best receiver, but Josh Heupel's system is designed for slot receivers to shine regardless. You have a 6'5" slot receiver now who runs about a 4.4 40, I think, was what he clocked in. Maybe a little over that, maybe 4.42 or something like that. Really fast for 6'5", put it that way. And you're going to line him up in the slot. And you're going to have Brew McCoy on one side, and you're going to have Ramel Keaton on the other. And there's still Squirrel White, I think Tennessee's going to run mostly four wide receiver set next year. Princeton Fant's gone. Jacob Warren's their only really tight end that has experience who's back. Tennessee's going to run four receiver sets all year next year with Jacob Warren out there at tight end. And so I don't see how. Well, wait, can you run four receiver sets with tight end? Yes, you can. My mind just went blank. Or no, you have to get rid of a running back.
Yeah, so
sorry.
I think you're including Jacob Warren as essentially in some ways he is a receiver. So, I mean, I think that you're going to run the base package of, have a tailback back there, and you're going to run a tight end and three running backs. But if they need to go four wide, which I haven't seen them do that a lot, I mean, they could. My question to you is, as far as, I think it's pretty apparent that he's an outside receiver. And the slot's taken care of with Squirrel White, but I've been surprised before. Jalen Hyatt physically looked like an outside receiver, but there he goes in the slot and has just a masterful year. But where do you see him fitting in?
Oh, I think he's going to be in the slot. I think Heupel picked him up because he wanted the size advantage in the slot.
Okay.
Yeah. Heupel's doing the. I'm not comparing them character-wise or coaching-wise because I have no respect for the man I'm about to name. But Heupel's doing the Hugh Freeze thing. When Hugh Freeze first got to Ole Miss, he really wanted all of his receivers to be 3 inches taller than every cornerback, whether it be on the outside or the inside. And Heupel's really going for that now, I think. And so, yes, Squirrel White's a unique case. That's a little bit different. But you look at most of Tennessee's receivers, they're big. And so I think Heupel's going for the size factor in a 6'5" guy in the slot. It's scary. And also, a guy with an arm as big as Joe Milton's kind of want a bigger guy. You want a speed guy like Squirrel White, who has been his top target, but a few big bodies is what you need. So when he overthrows something, they might actually be able to catch it. And so
we had a question on the message board. Will we lose Ramel Keaton now? I don't see that at all. I think Ramel Keaton's practically assured a starting job as long as he dots the I's and crosses the T's in the offseason. I haven't heard any talk of that, Sig. You?
yeah, no, I don't think Tennessee's losing Ramel Keaton. I think as a pure just fundamentals receiver, Ramel Keaton is everything you want in a receiver. He's
I love that guy. I mean, I don't think he has the talent of Cedric Tillman. I don't think he has the speed of Jalen Hyatt. I don't think he has the shiftiness of Squirrel White.
And he doesn't have the size of Brew McCoy.
Doesn't have the size or overall physicality of Brew McCoy, but I love that guy, man. I love Ramel Keaton. To me, he just shows up. He feels like just, and from people I've talked to and watching him, doesn't he feel like the guy who would absolutely be a Vol until they tore Neyland Stadium down? Like, as far as transfer portal, I feel like he could almost be a second string player next year and he would still stick around. Doesn't he feel like that guy? He's just hung around knowing that Tillman's the star and McCoy's the star, and he hasn't gone anywhere. I really like him.
Yeah, he's going to do his job. He reminds me of throwback. Remember Jermaine Copeland in the 90s? Was never really the number one receiver, but
Great comparison. Yeah.
Yeah. Copeland was always there when you needed him. And, I think Ramel Keaton is that guy.
Look at you going old school. All right, so think about this for a second. Who would you take out of those three? Or we kind of said it yesterday, but with Thornton, what kind of impact do you think these guys have? And I'm going to ask you, contributor, starter, star. Okay, so I want to break down each of the three and go contributor, starter, star. Now, in the meantime, I wanted to discuss, at least throw out there, Juwan Mitchell, surprisingly, it's entered the transfer portal. I didn't see that coming. Portions of the program brought to you by Vols Automotive Group right there on Callahan. Vols Automotive Group is phenomenal when it comes to your car shopping. They have a selection that's unparalleled. They also have a car service department that you'll get the absolute right fit for you, and you'll get treated fairly and you'll get the right service. They're not going to add stuff on. So a bunch of new viewers jumping on now. Hit the like button. We greatly appreciate that. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel, and we're with you each and every day at 10 o'clock. So with the new time, we need that thumbs up button. So Caleb, let me go through them one at a time, and you tell me contributor, starter, star. Okay, so I'm going to start with John Campbell, contributor, starter, star.
This is a really tough thing to put me in because the order I'm going to put these in is the reverse of how I'd rank the importance of them. So that's
making zero sense is what you're saying. So all of our listeners and viewers, get ready for 0 cents. Nonsensical Caleb all of a sudden.
Because John Campbell I have as a starter.
Okay. I have him as a contributor. I've got to see it before I'm willing to say starter on the offensive line. So I got contributor. Now, contributor means that game 4, somebody could get injured and he steps in. So I like him. Omarr Norman-Lott.
So here's why I'm inconsistent. He's the most important pickup for Tennessee yesterday, but I've only got him as a contributor because I don't think he's going to start. But I think you just need a bunch of contributors on the defensive line. So
I think he's a starter. I'm going to go starter for him. I'm going to go starter.
Where, though? Because there's Amari Thomas still, and I think Garland is back. Entire West might be emerging, right?
He might. I'm still gonna go starter. I'm gonna go out on
Old strategy, Cotton.
yeah, let's see how it works out for him. Dont'e Thornton, receiver, contributor, starter, star.
Star. Maybe not next year, but the year after. Star. I mean, a 6'5" slot guy in Josh Heupel's offense. Dave, you and I could be all SEC playing slot in Josh Heupel's offense. So I mean, this is this is insane that they did that. This is Steve Spurrier. This is if Peyton Manning played for Steve Spurrier in the 90s. That's what this is.
I think that would have gone pretty well, just for the record.
Yeah, Peyton Manning playing for Spurrier. Could you imagine?
Yeah, I think that would have gone just fine.